Dungeon Master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position.
Dungeon Master and Dwarven Sword Master, Hobgoblins, Dwarves, Elves, and Halflings are some of the characters and terms used in this very complicated and controversial game.
You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created.
Oh man. Welcome everyone. Another week, another natural ones. Thanks Vic for showing up this week. Means a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
we got the Wonkee, we got Ryan Howard. They're gonna talk to us
What's up, guys?
They're gonna talk to us about the Kickstarter, Guts and Glory, Volume 1. And we all got everyone's already noticing the blankets. We got our blankets, in case we get sad.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can snuggle up in our blankets.
It's important.
Shane Winter, you're not gonna just have a picture of your book up while you show your new Zero E Authentic project. No. If we have time to that, we'll talk about that. This week is all about Ryan and the Wonkee here and Vic too. Congrats to all three of you. All three of you have a Kickstarter. It got funded very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Did all of you guys get funded in 24 hours at least?
It was just a little over 24 hours.
Yeah.
It was
30, something like that.
Yeah, like 33, 34 hours we got funded.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was 15 minutes before 24 hours ended, so I still claim 24 hours.
I'm gonna put myself on the bottom here so that when chat comes up, it covers up my ugly face and not my handsome guests. But yeah, so you guys we're asking for 25. You're at 35 now. So
right, it's
awesome.
Amazing. It's such a crazy feeling.
Yeah, for Mockweedle, it took me like 6 days to get funded, I think. I was asking for 10,000 though, because I was doing offset print. But when I hit 10,000 in 6 days, it was like a weight off my shoulders. It was like, because I know Vic, you for your first Kickstarter last year, it was like for the 5 ebook. I know you said that one was like up to the wire for.
Yeah, that was like last minute, pretty much.
Yeah,
it was just 30 days of like stress. Like, am I gonna make it? And yeah.
But no, we were actually we were thinking it was gonna kind of go up to the wire for us, and we were very lucky that we got the funding as quickly as we did. So much so that we actually weren't planning on doing stretch goals, but because of how generous everyone was being with us, we decided to kind of give a little bit more value to the product and add some stretch goals. So
cool. We
ended up kind of expanding the project a little bit, and we hope to continue to do so as long as those milestones are met.
Most definitely. And with the way things are going, I have high hopes, It's exciting stuff going into this. With our first Kickstarter, just backing as quickly as getting backed and funded as quickly as we did, it's a kind of a really humbling moment more than anything else. It's like, wow, we really do have a shot to do something cool with this. Let's kick ass, dude.
Got a super chat here from Mercurius Alicus. He's a supporter on the channel. Thank you, sir. He says, congratulations, gentlemen. So congratulations from
Thank you.
down under where Mercurius is at. And then Devil's Theater, another supporter of the channel, says, you added stretch goals?
We added a couple stretch goals.
In
very
fact,
attainable ones.
John, if you scroll down a little bit, you can actually see the stretch goals here on the campaign page. Down past that amazing cover art for His Heinous Harvest.
Thank
Looks-
you.
looks cool.
Yeah.
And then down
I mean,
past the Night Haven
Oh,
stuff,
okay,
and
there you
right
go.
here, yeah, our stretch goals. So far, we have unlocked 4 additional enemy champions to face against in His Heinous Harvest. Next up at $4,000, so we're 500 away from it. This could happen tonight.
It really
if
could.
if we're lucky. All limited
We're
edition books will
chosen.
include all the limited edition books will include 2 hex map posters. Which are the adventuring environments from both His Heinous Harvest and then Corpse Walk, which is the Night Haven side of things.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you guys. I'd love to see you guys get to 6,000.
Wouldn't that be
Right.
amazing? It's, big dream, but I really hope and think if we put enough into it, we can attain it, That'd just be something really special that we initially talked about when we were first coming up with Guts and Glory. Like, yeah, let's do a hardback book. And then we started looking at prices and said, maybe next time we can think about a hardback book. And, with
So
how we've been doing.
Are you guys doing like offset print, or is this all print on demand through fulfillment through Drive-Thru RPG?
So we've got the POD tier down at the $25 price point. That'll still be a soft cover, but the
Okay.
special editions we'll be getting. If we get to $6,000, we'll be able to print them as hardcover books through one of the print services that we found online.
Cool. Okay. And then you do the multiple copies. It's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think you guys have been on before, and you guys, when you guys were on before, you guys talked about your holiday, your Christmas themed adventures that you guys had done.
Mhm.
And so then this is obviously separate from that. What are these? What are people getting when they get this? What is Guts and Glory Volume 1?
Oh boy. So this is the real deal with what we're trying to do here. The holiday adventure, I like to say, was a little bit of a test flight that we did just to see if we could be compatible as creators and that kind of a thing. Made sure everything operated smoothly. Initially, His Heinous Harvest was going to be a much shorter adventure. Currently, it's docked in at about 90 pages, something like that. It was I was going to have to trim it down to like 14, 15. I ended up just blowing that off as far as being a Christmas holiday adventure. I didn't want to cut out all the goodies. And so Ryan ended up releasing Oh Night Divine. But with Guts and Glory, we're coming out of the gate swinging here with our biggest, baddest adventures that we could muster. So yeah, I have my big old adventure here, His Heinous Harvest. And then Ryan's got Corpse Walk. And then would you say the Rakes Codex is attached to Corpse Walk, or is it a separate thing? Because it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I've kind of put myself in a weird position branding my portion of Guts and Glory Volume 1, but what I have is something called the Rakes Codex, which is an in-universe book that basically compiles all the knowledge that any criminal mastermind would want to have about Night Haven. And I have kind of pieced it out as if like this is a book that's been found in multiple sections. And this first section details the gate area. And it also details how the city guard works. And then at the back of that, there is a scenario called Corpse Walk, which incorporates the area of the city gates and heavily features the city guard as kind of a prominent feature of that adventure. And so I kind of view my adventure scenarios as kind of a thematic tying of everything together. So you get faction details, you get lore, you get a detailed map of a particular section of the city, and then you get an adventure set within that area that helps you kind of interact with all these things, or shows you a way in which you can interact with these things.
So from what I remember correctly, or what you've told me about at least your setting, Ryan, which interests me because as a, I rather like Lankmar style stuff. Is like your setting is more of like a city setting, right?
Yeah. It's a city setting, and my goal is specifically to prove to the naysayers out there that a city can, one, be an adventuring environment, and two, a city can function identically to a dungeon.
There's people that say it can't. That's weird.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I was running AD&D for a while with some friends. I was running a game for my brother and some friends. And I had the whole campaign. It was in the same campaign as my other game, my other in-person game. This game was an online game. But this one was set in a city on like a couple 100 miles away from where the other campaign was taking place. And they were just delving into crypts and catacombs under the city. There was tons of because it was like an old city built on the ruins of like civilizations that had come before, So there's like catacombs and old sewers and things like that beneath it. And it worked perfectly for the kind of game that I like to run, where I want each session to end in town. So it's perfect when town is just right above the surface and you just kind of try and climb for your life out of the dungeon into the graveyard of the city, and like, okay, well, we can make it to the tavern from here, it worked really well. And then life stuff happened, and that game fell apart. It wasn't because it failed. Anything I did or anyone did. We had some players that had some life stuff happen, but that was one of those instances where I like, this works. I want to try this again. I think this is like a good way to run a game. So. Yeah, I'm surprised there's naysayers to that. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, there's plenty of precedents in like pulp stuff. Like, you mentioned Langmar. There's this really cool book series called Hawk and Fisher. That's all about like these two city guards in a big fantasy city. If you want to go a little bit more comedy or whatever, you've got Discworld, like with the guardsmen and stuff like that. So like, it's not like there's anything new in like fantasy. So
not at all.
Yeah,
it sounds like, I mean, whoever said that must not have had any kind of a dangerous encounter in an urban environment in their life. Realistically, you run into all kinds of unexpected things out in the city. Go bar crawling at 2 a.m. anywhere, realistically larger than 500 person population, and you're going to experience something.
Yeah, even where I am, people don't generally talk about the mean streets of Nashville, Tennessee, but if you go to Lower Broadway on a weekend night, you'll have some random encounters.
Growing up in Southern California and doing lots of trips in my 20s to LA for bar crawling and stuff like that, I can tell you that LA even back then was wild. So cities can be sketchy and dangerous. So.
Most definitely.
Well, you mentioned dungeons in cities. Okay, so derelict buildings. Imagine something like the Paris catacombs, but fantasy. Yeah. There's actual bad shit down there. Though there might be in the Paris catacombs too. I don't know. You're never sure. I wouldn't spend the night there. But yeah, like there's plenty of stuff to do in cities.
Well, but even just the city streets themselves, especially in a city like Nighthaven, where there's a lot of gang activity, so in dungeons, you have these kind of set rooms and areas where certain creatures are congregating, and where, you run into certain things when you go into the dungeon. And there's also the wandering monster random encounters. All of that is present just on like city streets, even without going into buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you can run a city crawl as if it was like a mega dungeon, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like anything can be a dungeon. I've run like woodland encounters as a dungeon, so yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Mockweedle, I tell people how to treat or in the rulebook, I try and talk about using the wilderness as a dungeon, because there's not much of a dungeon delve necessarily in that setting, but yeah, old graveyards might have tunnels underneath. That's what I did in my AD&D 1E game. They just kept going back to the graveyard because they found an open crypt that went to like these deep dark catacombs where they made terrible decisions. We ran, I don't know how many, we got over 6 sessions. We maybe played for like 2 months or something like that. by the time like we had that campaign had to end, the players, there was not a single original character that was there that was at session 1 because I had killed all of them. So, but they were doing
Rightfully so.
They were doing stupid stuff. Like I've talked about the cleric turning the undead. He turned some skeletons. They run off down this one hallway, and he's like, "I'm gonna chase after them by myself." And I'm like, "What? Why?" Okay. Well, now they've gone to the end of the tunnel, and now they're gonna turn and fight you, and now it's six skeletons versus one level 1 cleric. It's not gonna end well for you.
You sometimes just watch the dice, you bigot.
Yeah.
The decisions of players sometimes never just ceases to baffle me. Like, why would you think that's a good idea in this situation, this environment? What is going through your head right now? You know, I feel like at least once a session you see just something wild out of the blue, like, tell me more. Please just explain the logic behind what you're doing.
I think with
help me help you.
I think like with that specific situation, I think it's like basically video game brain. I think there's this sense that a lot of players kind of bring to the table, especially players of our generation, because so much of our exposure to gaming has been through video games. There's this thought that if something isn't dead, like the encounter hasn't been completed. And so, you know, turn undead, you make them run away, and they're like, well, I don't want to make them run away. I want to kill them. And then they get themselves into trouble because that's not how D&D works.
You won. You made the 6 skeletons run away. You're level 1. You saved the whole party. You know, go the other direction. But no, he had to chase him down the dark tunnel by himself. And the other players were like, dude, like what?
Well, people also think that running away is like you do in Final Fantasy VII, where you just like run off screen and then like the encounter ended. Like, no, there's like usually chase rules.
Right.
There's like all sorts of stuff, like you know, running away and then the monsters are still running after you. Like that could be an exciting encounter. That could be exciting role playing opportunity. But people just, I don't know, they don't really think about that stuff. About that stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And you know, a city would be a great place to have some chase rules. You know? You could you could do some parkouring over some buildings as a chase occurs, chasing after a thief or something like that. You know, there's lots of.
I feel like it's a standard trope of fantasy, realistically, as the city chase scene.
Yeah.
Knock over some fruit stands as someone's trying to chase you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that will be something that probably will come in with the next iteration of Nighthaven. Will be like chase rules and pursuit rules, specifically dealing with like parkour and rooftop chases.
Fun.
I like it. Let's see. We got a pertinent question here. Oh. So can we play these adventures with white box?
Yes. Yes, you can play both Bellafallo and Nighthaven using your favorite D20 based RPG system.
And even the ones you don't like too.
Yep.
You can play it using almost any D20 system. So the thing that we're really relying on with how we're writing out these adventures is that you know the game you want to play. That's all it really depends upon, is if you can understand the universal dice language of strength +3, then you're going to be able to play these games. Now, I've written mine with accordance to both ascending and descending armor class. You just did descending, right, Orion?
So I generally put both in there.
Oh, are you putting both in there? Heck yeah,
sweet.
So realistically, as long as you understand D&D language, then you're going to be able to play these games with minimal, if any, modifications needed. You might just need to mentally translate, like, oh, we use intellect, not intelligence. Oh, how strange. Agility and not dexterity? Wild. You know, little things here and there might be shift, but the language we're speaking is pretty much universal around the clock.
So I guess I'll look here because I was curious. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hard to see.
Sorry about that. I can get you a better picture of that if you want.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was more just curious. I can kind of make out some of it. So you got speed here. He's got 20 feet. I don't know what that is in parentheses there.
I have inches marked next to all of my feet because I come from a miniature wargaming background, and so I just at table like to have that on the fly.
And you got like melee. Okay, I was curious. Like, okay, you got armor class, health, morale, strength, agility, endurance, charisma, intelligence, luck, fortitude. So you have like a bunch of different attributes that like people could reference.
Commonly see or use in most games.
Okay. So I was curious because I like that you kind of give a little bit more. Not that like what Vendor does with Chalt, because his Chalt is very like system agnostic and it's
is it? I'm not actually too familiar.
He gives like hit dice, AC, and like maybe an attack bonus, and then he has like his special abilities for a creature. So his stat blocks are super simple, which works because it works.
Okay.
It works for a lot of different games, but it almost feels like a little too, like not lacking, but like for me personally, I want a little more information on a monster or a
just a little more depth. Like tactically, what am I supposed to be doing with this?
But
heck yeah, and that was just kind of an early design sheet I had going on here, and I liked it enough to throw it on the Kickstarter because I really think it exemplifies a lot of the aesthetic I'm going to be going for with at least his Heinous Harvest. But yeah, that's for one of the primary creatures, the big bad monsters you're going to be fighting that guard the evil manor house. They come with a variety of different weapons that you can kind of load them out with yourself, and they're, I guess, what you could call like the ball rolling down the hill chasing Indiana Jones. That's how they function throughout this adventure. It's kind of just this force that keeps pushing players along during this very kind of it's not necessarily a stealth oriented adventure, but essentially you're going to be infiltrating an evil village, and if you just sit there allowing enemies to gather, you're going to end up with a total party kill every time. It's not one where you can just sit there in a house and fight it out.
Yeah, so let's talk about your adventure in this as well. So
get me started. Rev me up. What's up?
so it sounds like this one is a big one because you said you didn't want to cut stuff out for the Christmas adventure.
Yeah, it's hefty.
So how many pages is your adventure, not counting Ryan's?
So currently it's at, I think, 87, but that's with my big old stat blocks, and you can see how they're formatted with a fair amount of space in between. I have them in my Word document pretty much the same there. And then I'm planning on adding in at least 4 more monsters because we got them stretch goals rocking. So I'm looking at about 90-ish pages, probably going to be 100, 110, somewhere in there when it's all finished up. And yeah, it's really exciting stuff because in there I was really inspired by B2 Keep on the Borderlands, Caves of Chaos and all that. So it essentially starts with a sketchy old wizard who hires you to travel 200 miles or so across a huge expanse of land. So I'm forcing a hex crawl first and foremost. It's an introductory adventure. So I want to really inspire that, like the westward expanse, the old pioneering spirit, kind of evoke that a little bit for people. The bloody trials and struggles as you're kind of just going off into the distance looking for something. You end up at this religious colony and people can check out the village, and I've added in a fair amount of stuff there, including like an optional side dungeon. I have a investigation kind of role play themed side quest that's like 10 pages long in there. And then it ends in that manor house that you're looking at there. And then that's kind of the primary dungeon crawl area, as well as the caves and tunnels beneath it where all the real nasty stuff's lurking.
Nice. Who designed those maps? Was
Me.
that you or? Oh, no,
yeah,
awesome.
so that's my childhood home.
Maps? Oh.
Yeah, that's I did my childhood home from memory, is what that is.
Yeah, you've got a really cool style, like art-wise, kind of reminds me of like Hunt Showdown and that kind of stuff. That gritty, grimy,
cool.
like
Yeah. Thank you. First off, thank you. I'll take a compliment when it's given. Heck yeah.
What did you make the maps in? I'm just curious.
So I do a lot of my sketching in pencil, and I'll just get a really sloppy, loose idea on what I want, and then I throw it into Photoshop from there and work it all out. I have a bunch of so pretty much my main day job is I do a lot of maps for Pacesetter games and simulations, doing their adventure module stuff. So I have a bunch of pre-made beds and chairs and tables and that kind of thing. So I don't have to start from scratch, which is each thing. So I pretty much just draw a blueprint and then detail out to as I see fit.
Cool. I was wondering because like I use like Dungeon Painter Studio a lot, and I made my own tile set separately, like in Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, and then I imported them into Dungeon Painter Studio. So then it's kind of probably the same kind of thing you're doing, where it's just like, here's a bed, here's a wall, here's an altar, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd imagine very similar. I'm not even familiar with this program.
There's Dungeon Painter 2, which I've thought about getting. I don't know if it's good or not. I've been happy with Dungeon Painter 1 this whole time, and it's like I think like $12 or $15 on Steam.
Gotcha. Okay.
But,
interesting on Steam.
Yeah. But I've thought about looking at Painter 2. I just haven't gotten around to it. So
neat. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit. Yeah, I've just been going straight with Photoshop. I hit Command and then apostrophe, and I get a little grid on my screen, and I just work from there as far as like that's where tile spacing should be, so I know where I'm working. And
it sounds like you're using Photoshop, but this same way as like Dungeon Painter Studio.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. That's cool.
We got a question here for both of you gentlemen from someone. For my information, I'm joining late, and I just want to know what type of world this is for either adventure. So
an intense one.
Yeah, so we're presenting two different worlds here, but they're united in kind of an ethos of fantasy that we can talk about here in just a second, but. To speak to my world, it is a city-based setting for whatever D20-based system you want to use, and I like to describe it as Lankhmar meets Sin City.
Nice, yeah. I'm in.
Right, though.
When are we starting?
And then as far as my content goes, I am pretty much only going to be writing for Bella Follow, my own world setting that I've been working on for the past 5-10 years or so officially. It's a very dark, intense fantasy survival horror flavor, but it's not limited by genre. Sometimes you get some Wild Westy stuff, like for this adventure. Sometimes we dip into the sci-fi and the biopunk weirdness. There's all kinds of genres kind of thrown in because it's a cyclical apocalyptic world, but it primarily stays in, I guess, what you might think of as Black Powder era.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like Liero says, wait, a travel through the wilderness to a religious colony? So the Trinity movies?
Oh, I'm not familiar. Dang it. I'm bad with these references.
Old spaghetti westerns.
Gotcha. I'm surprised I'm lacking in that one.
they're a little bit more comedy spaghetti westerns, but really good.
Gotcha.
I grew up on those movies, so yeah.
Devil Cedar says Victor is already taking notes on how to work firearms in a
of course. No, I'm already taking notes on how to steal Wonkee for doing art for me.
Well, and the thing about Nighthaven is it already has firearms, so all he would have to do is up the technology level a little bit.
But I'm also fine with like black powder and stuff. Like I love that shit. So
I love black powder.
Yeah,
it adds a neat aspect to it.
Yeah. My stretch goal that I just hit today was for like Weird West stuff. So yeah,
I love Weird West. It's one of the most underappreciated genres in existence.
Agreed.
Oh, did I catch your interest with biopunk? Yeah, I like the dark, nasty stuff. H.R. Giger's like my hero. I'm really big into all kinds of that weird, creepy stuff. Gore is intense, and oh boy, there's lots to talk about there. Sorry for being weird.
It's fine. We're sitting here with blankets over our shoulders. I don't think
that's fair. We're cozy.
Yeah.
So my love of biopunk started.
It makes me think of the movie. What was it? Existence.
Oh yeah, that movie's fun.
I haven't seen this one either. I am lacking all these references. Dang it.
Oh man, well, you
It's
need
It
to
has
watch.
it has a gun made out of bone that shoots teeth. So yeah.
It's super weird.
Mhm.
It's really bizarre. It's a super strange movie. I highly recommend it.
Beautiful.
Though.
What was the name one more time?
Existence with the X.
Yeah,
And like
it's
Z, I think, at the end.
I think it's
Nice.
I don't know if it's pronounced I always pronounce it existence because it just reminded me the movie to me the way the name looks for it sounds like some kind of erectile dysfunction.
That's awesome.
Medication.
It is the blue pill.
Wonkee, are you a big fan of David Cronenberg?
Yes, yeah.
Because it's a Cronenberg movie.
I don't know the name. I feel like I've heard the name.
Have you seen the movie
like,
Scanners?
I haven't seen the movie. Oh no, I am flopping.
Cronenberg is like body horror type stuff. Basically, all his movies are just like creepy people getting warped and mutated and just all sorts of weird shit.
That's right up my vibe. Oh, I love The Fly. Great
the remake of The Fly, not the original Fly.
Okay, I'm following.
Yeah, Scanners is great. Yeah, there's a
Scanners. Okay,
there's a classic GIF of that guy with the glasses and the mustache and his head explodes.
Yes.
You've probably seen it before. It's from that movie. So
yeah,
he uses his mental powers to make that guy's head just explode.
It's with it's Michael Ironside, right? That's the bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah,
he's pretty good in that movie. Devil's Theater asks Wonkee, are you a Zoomer?
I am not a Zoomer. I'm 27. I'm like technologically inept. I'm just I'm a weird Alaskan dude that's still waiting for his voice to drop down a bit.
It's 27, young millennial. I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Wonkee and I are under a year apart in age, and I like 1995, 96 is generally the cutoff for millennials. So I think both of us would qualify there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the cutoff from avocado toast to floss dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Definitely the former there.
Yeah. I'm that weird that in between stage between Gen X and millennial, and then I'm pretty sure John is just straight up millennial. So
yeah, I'm on the cusp. I'm 80. I'm born 87, so I'm like pretty close to like.
Yeah,
I would identify with that sort of lost generation where like
we're pretty close to
our generation name changed repeatedly over the last 30 years. So
yeah,
it's fair.
So. Rex Teal's a Zoomer. I know a lot of Zoomers that are cool,
Yeah.
So not all of them are like playing Fortnite and floss dancing. So
I know shitty people of every age.
Yeah.
Very true. Won't get into it, but last year, I'll say.
Yeah. Deep breath and a slow tear.
Yeah. Basic X-ray. You're still young. Enjoy it. I was born in 1967, so yeah, I'm only 36. Be 37 this year. So,
like Leo said, yeah, I'm not quite 40 yet. I'm turning 40 this year, but
old man. The future's now, old man.
Well, my friends have been trying to call me Bill, and people that know my actual real name will understand. They have been trying to call me Bill for years, and I hate it. But I finally gave them permission that if I turn 40, they can call me Bill, because for me that's like a Bill. That's like a Bill age, So
it's fair.
You're gonna wear your white New Balance sneakers with jeans.
Yeah, basically,
a little bit of grass stain.
Tucked in like polo shirt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Are you currently paying to heat the whole neighborhood?
No, I don't even heat my own apartment, so no.
But people were commenting on your map here.
That's cool.
They were saying they liked the sort of the way like the manor is bigger, like the characterization, I guess, on it. So yeah, it is a cool map.
Thank you. One thing I was really looking at as far as reference and stuff like that goes is I'm very inspired by zoo maps and like theme park maps and aquarium maps. You know, those little folding pamphlet brochures where you see all these big decorative artsy hotspots. I think it's just such a good, efficient way of relaying information. And when you think about it, what they're really trying to do is show how different places connect to one another in the most digestible manner possible. And a lot of money has been poured in by these big companies showing you how to do that. And I think being able to transfer some of that to dungeon design and that kind of thing is, I don't know, it just seems A to B to me to think about of like, oh yeah, there's probably science backing what these guys are doing. So I'm trying to kind of get into that a little bit more and really emphasize the features that you see across the map. Because like one thing that kind of irks me a lot of the times when I see especially big city maps is it all becomes very samey. It blends into a giant fuse of squares. And to be truthful, it's not very useful to me as a dungeon master at the table, not when studying the game. It's cool, it's maybe realistic and representational, but I don't find it to be very helpful as a tool. And so I kind of want to lean towards the other end of it. You know what I mean?
So I just know, I mean, over here I can probably get my funnel cake.
Yes. Yeah, that's where you'll get the funnel cake. Oh boy, that's where the giggle tar comes on out. That's you'll find something there. Oh boy.
No, it's a neat design to the map. I think it's cool.
Thank you. Glad you appreciate.
Is there like a larger hex map? Because this is obviously like the village area with the manor and everything. So this is all like what is kind of roughly the scale, like if you're going from this area to this area, probably, I guess.
That would only be a couple 100 feet or so.
Okay.
It's more representational just of the layout of the actual the estate of the Baron here. I'm going to have a actual map of the entire village of Dripwater that this takes place within, and then I'm going to have a huge couple 100-mile hex map. So I'm going to have, I guess, 4 or 5 different levels of zoom. So we're going to have the giant hex map overland. We're going to have the village proper. Then the estate is kind of towards the back of the village, and then you have inside the manor house down below.
And then you're obviously you're doing the art for Ryan's stuff as well then, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Exciting.
So similar kind of maps. Like, are you doing this? Is he doing your Nighthaven city map in a similar manner, or?
Yeah, he'll be doing my Nighthaven city map. And probably it'll end up being of the same inspirations that he described there. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but it'll. I fully trust Wonkee to produce a great map for Nighthaven.
It's good. I appreciate it. Yeah. So one thing we're working on right now is finding the things that will make our work look stylistically different as well. So I don't want to just be using the exact same techniques and the exact same pattern that I do with my Bellafalla work. I want to be kind of almost developing a whole different branch of, I guess, style, for lack of a better term. So, it might be a little samey here in some spots for our first volume, but as we expand and really explore what each of these settings is about, I only imagine how much they're going to diverge.
For Chris, it's for like a fantasy setting. So I think you made Black Powder, as I mentioned, both settings are kind of like Black Powder, medieval fantasy sort of setting.
I'm in.
It'll fit into most D&D style games.
How about Modern Necessity? No.
You know what? I actually think his Heinous Harvest probably could be ran in a modern day setting. Realistically, it'd be a little weird. You might have to update some things, and these people would be very Amish styled. Yeah. But beyond that, it's just spooky stuff. A lot of it translates.
There was that horror movie, The Ritual.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see that movie?
That one.
It's pretty good. I like the monster in that movie.
One.
It was on Netflix.
Well, I am developing kind of like a dark fantasy, like magical apocalypse setting, like modern day, but magic with fucking mess everything up. So I could probably take that and just shoehorn that into my setting, update it a little, and like you said, it's just like weird rural freaks.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Heck yeah. And that's kind of the cool thing is Bellafallo is its own setting, but I don't ever intend to put out a real setting book for it. That's not my intention. It's a world I want to explore through adventures, and I'm not focused so much on the big geopolitical stuff, but on small local untellings of what's going on here. So you realistically could plug and pull this into almost any setting or any time period. You know, this could be an agricultural world in the far distant 45th millennium or something, you know.
Yeah. Who knows?
Drop it in a Traveler game, because Traveler
Yeah.
has different tech levels. So
Yeah, exactly.
Fit perfect in a traditional Call of Cthulhu style game. Might be a little dangerous, but
we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm interested to know, and I know we talked about this in our last time we had you guys on, but you know, I think it's worthwhile to go back over it. Is what would you guys say is your biggest influences for either of your projects that like Nighthaven and Bellafallo? What would you say are some of the things that have inspired you that made the light bulb click in your head, or like, shoot, I need to write this down, this is a great idea? What would you say are those influences? We'll start with Ryan.
Okay.
Perfect.
A lot of it, you know, I'm a big fan of the Dresden Files, and you can see some of that in the way that my game plays out. You know, I mentioned Lankmar. You know, you guys who know me know that I love my pulp fantasy for obvious reasons. And then I also looked at a lot of fantasy city settings, and I noticed that there was kind of an element missing from all of them. And that was this kind of like mafia movie element, this kind of like street crime. How does the criminal element work? Everything, like, you know, I love Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, but in their first adventure together, they completely wipe out the Thieves Guild. Spoilers for, you know, a 70-year-old story. And then basically every adventure is they turn down a street and run into some kind of mystical something or another. And that's cool, but there's a lot of that. I want to know what happens when you enter a city for the first time, and now you're having to contend with the Thieves Guilds and these, you know, crime syndicates and nobles that are corrupt. And how do you kind of navigate a city that has, you know, basically been structured to keep you down and keep the people in power up? And that's what I really wanted to explore. And so I bring in a lot of influences of, like I mentioned, Sin City, Goodfellas, a little bit of Scorsese in there. There's an awful lot of kind of mafia movie shenanigans that make their way into Nighthaven.
I think that's appropriate. You know, that's a good take, because it is true. I mean, I like that first story where Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser adventure together, but it is very they just go to town on that Thieves Guild. You know, it's very satisfying. It's a good story, but and it works for that story, I guess. Like, I think we have to also understand that a novella is different from like writing an adventure. At least in my mind, it should be, at least.
You should check out the Hawk and Fisher books, Ryan, if you haven't yet.
I have. I've read the first two, and I really enjoy them.
And as for movies, it's not quite mafia, but it does have like a street biker gang and stuff. Streets of Fire.
I've been meaning to watch that.
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
I with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, it's a creepy biker.
Yeah,
lord.
that's an odd movie, but it's definitely interesting. It's different.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I know, like, odd factoid that I know about that movie, I believe it's directed by and stars the main character from the movie Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah.
So, like, that's on my to watch list.
Yeah, that movie's weird. It's like 1950s, but they play like 80s rock music and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think for Bella Follow and its inspirations, a lot of it is just I have a lot of crazy dreams that, come to me, and so I try and remember those as best as I can and tie them all together in a fantasy world. But as far as real influences that I have, I think my biggest and most predominant outside of my pulp fantasy triad of Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and then Clark Ashton Smith. Outside of that, I really draw heavily on old Warhammer fantasy from about the 1990s, early 2000s era, not so much modern stuff. That was incredibly influential in just how I viewed fantasy in the world. It was even kind of the lens that I viewed J.R.R. Tolkien's works when I was first reading through those. So it's kind of an interesting thing because it really shaped how I view fantasy due to how early I was introduced to it. Beyond that, there's a huge smattering of things that kind of go into my work. I was raised in what I might call my dad was like a metalhead punk rock skateboard company owning kind of weird dude, and so I got a lot of that the vulgar, raw, intense action vibe kind of growing up. So I can see a lot of that going into my work. There's all kinds of things that influence Bella Follow because I try not to limit what I allow to influence it, but more what I allow to influence me. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV and movies and that kind of thing. But I'm not really opposed to taking inspiration from wherever I can find it. So you do find a lot of, sci-fi stuff kind of smattered throughout. I'm huge into historical, most things realistically, especially on the pioneering era. That's kind of my big go-to. So yeah, there's lots of inspirations out there. And I think actually to answer even better, yeah, I think you could say it's kind of in that Middenheimy vibe. You're not too far off. I think it's a bit more grotesque and dark in a lot of ways, but yeah, we're kind of in that right spectrum. But it's mostly influenced by my surroundings here in Southeast Alaska. I go out running and hiking pretty much every day out in the frozen cold. I was hanging out with a deer earlier. Like, I'm very much an eccentric wannabe woodsman weirdo. And so I think that's what I try and pull more than anything into it.
Nice.
It's like, I'm out there with sword in hand living it.
One thing I want to say too, congratulate you guys, is you guys got Professor Dungeon Master to shout you guys out too, which is pretty cool.
We did, cool. And I was surprised that he was so gracious with me. I've been kind of a dickhead to him.
Well, you guys did that video. I know you guys got his fans came after you, but he seemed to take the video in good stride, and I think you guys were fair. And he seemed to enjoy it. He seems like the kind of guy that, he knows what he likes, and he's willing to either debate or let it be like, oh, cool, you guys think that, and that's neat, you know.
Yeah, he shared the video and he told us directly that he loved it, and then his fans were like, "Oh, why are you guys so mean?"
Oh man,
it's one of the things that just kind of never ceases to amaze me in this space, because I noticed it when I did the same thing to Matt Colville, and I was far less charitable to Matt Colville than I was to Professor Dungeon Master. And then just this past weekend with Matt Mercer.
Hold on, I got it.
Yeah, we'll all bundle up here for this.
You come at people like parasocial D&D daddies online, and they just lose their minds.
Yeah. And then
that's what happens when you pick fights on the
ever said about the
Mm-hmm.
I this hobby, I really love it. Obviously, it's a big part of my life. Ever since I got into it, I've been hooked, been addicted to it. But man, there's a lot of weirdos in it. There's always been a lot of weirdos in it. I think that's what makes it both really great, is the number of weirdos in it, because all four of us are weirdos.
Oh,
and, we know each other now.
I'm normal.
Yeah. I'm normal as hell.
Okay, well, I'm a weirdo.
And freak. Loser. I'm just
We've
kidding.
actually been meaning to talk to you about that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's turned into an intervention stream.
Right.
You know, it's full of a lot of weirdos, but it's also full of a lot of cool people who are also weirdos, and some of them are just like normal people. I've actually kind of come to the conclusion in a lot of it where like I think I'm just like this normal dude that I like to hit the shooting range and you know hang out with my kid, and I go to church on Sunday, and I just happen to like role playing games. And then there's some people where like you would look at me and maybe think like, oh, this is his personality, and it's really not. Like there's lots of different aspects of who I am. But some people like that are online, it's like this is their personality, and liking this creator is their personality. So they, they take offense if they perceive any sort of slight against their hero.
That's true. I mean, when you associate yourself with this person, it's like I like their ideas. I watch them weekly, daily, It almost becomes kind of a mini tribalism kind of mentality that goes into it. Like, how dare you attack Big Chief?
I personally can't wait until I have an army of simps that will just defend me. So,
but hey, like we talked about last year a little bit, like legitimately there were people that came to defend us,
Yeah.
And I greatly appreciate that. So that's what I mean, where like there's both sides. Like sometimes it's warranted, and I try and see things from everybody's perspective. I wish we had like the gif of it under a blanket, no doubt.
Yeah.
What's with the
There you go.
Perfect.
Leave the basic expert alone.
But this
that's golden.
This kind of speaks to one of the things that we want to achieve with Guts and Glory, and we've talked about this on a couple occasions, and especially last time Wonkee was on Rolling Bones with me, we talked about this, and this also ties in with the conversation we were having on Gilded over the weekend about the number of buff dudes or dudes in martial arts who are obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. There's this there's this aspect of nerd culture, or this kind of sect of nerd culture, that this is like the healthiest aspect of nerd culture, and the one that I really want to grow and really want to like latch onto with Guts and Glory. The people who take a look at these aspirational figures like Goku, like Conan, like Solomon Kane, and just say, I see what this story is doing. I see what this protagonist, this hero, is doing, and I want to be that hero in real life. And so they use this as inspiration to better themselves and to like push themselves to that next level. And that's something that I think both of us really value and really want our games to convey, is this sense of these worlds are going to kick you in the face and you're going to have to overcome them. And so that's, the people who are going to like batten down the hatches and really come at the challenges that you put in front of them. Those are the kind of people we want to be playing our games. And those are the kind of people we want to be representing gamers.
It's true. I mean, I've kind of adopted this slogan of backbone required with my games. If you're going to be a crybaby about it, I don't want to play with you when your character dies and you freak out and throw a hissy fit and spend 14 hours writing up a new backstory that was super cool. I'm sick of that mentality. And I think, Henry Rollins, the punk rock legend, said it best in that when you're looking at these musicians on MTV, you should be inspired by them and not awed by them, because awed is passive and inspired is a very active thing. And I want a resurgence of the type of fantasy that inspires people to get off their lazy ass and go kick it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want some tough guys. I want some rockers. I want people willing to do the things necessary to kick ass in this world. And I think that applies to role-playing games, and that role-playing games are like a template for how to do that in real life. Because if you can go, rock a dragon or whatever, that gives you a real-life confidence boost if you've earned it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you solve the puzzle. It's essentially like you solved the puzzle with your, with your brain.
Right.
And you legitimately did it. You won against the you won against the rules. You won against the game. So like, heck yeah, that feels good. And that makes you Vic just fudges. He's got it. He just lets he doesn't even keep track of hit points. He just lets all the characters do something cool, and then the monster dies. So
there we are.
Oh, you DM like a Giga Chad.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys tell me what happens, okay?
Yeah, no,
That's a
I get and
different
appreciate that mentality. I think that's a good mentality to have, and it's a healthy one too.
It is.
I think there's, and if that's the goal behind a lot of your guys' projects and the things that you want to tap into, I have a similar sort of mindset.
Then we stand together, brother.
There's a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of, I think, unhealthy attitudes towards the game in the hobby right now.
Oh yeah.
And so I think the best way to combat it is to make stuff that is in line with the ideals that you want to see prevalent in the hobby.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like complaining about it only gets you so far. Complaining about it online or to your friends or whatever only gets it so far. But if you're running the games with the ideals that you want, and or making games or adventures with the ideals that you want, then and I'm not talking about, again, inserting politics into stuff. I'm talking just about like the aesthetics of the game, the type of game you want to run, and what you expect from players and whatnot. I'm not talking about inserting politics or anything like that into a game. Just the kind of game you want to run. I think that needs to happen.
Right. It's that age-old be the change you want to see in the world kind of thing.
Exactly.
Heroism needs to be cultivated, and that is an active job. It's not something that just gets thrown into your lap. So let's start doing that again.
And we find ourselves in a very unique position here. And when I say this, I'm not just talking about Wonkee and I. I'm talking about all four of us on this call. Right now, the RPG landscape is in flux. D&D is not the cultural juggernaut that it was. It's very clearly lost something, and it's on the decline. And also, there's no clear successor to that throne. There's not a vampire like there was in the 90s. There's not, something else that's kind of coming up behind D&D and
MCDM.
Oh no.
You're gonna summon Gelatinous Rube, don't. But we have an opportunity, gamers and creators of our generation, we have an opportunity to create something that is either going to push D&D to be better or going to outright supplant it. I don't believe that D&D as a brand is eternal.
I think part of the reason why there isn't a clear successor is because people have so many options now. You can go play Shadowdark, you can go play Old School Essentials, you can go play Castles and Crusades, you can go play
Modern Necessities.
You can go play Candela Obscura, you can go play like that. So Savage Worlds, like there's so many options now.
I'm actually going to argue that no, you can't play Candela Obscura.
Oh yeah, of course. You can go play Thirsty Sword Lesbians, like the sky's the limit. But like even like in the early 2000s, like there were indies and stuff, but it wasn't as widespread as it is now. So people like automatically just kind of gravitated to stuff like Pathfinder and
Yeah.
You speak truth. And I think that's one of the main reasons we wanted to try and write kind of system agnostic, just D20 role-playing games, is because how can you compete between 30 different playing fields, I mean, it's almost like, why should I choose?
Yeah.
I like quite a few different games, and it's whatever strikes me. I mean, like I don't know. I'm an old I'm an old crusty grognard at heart. You know, like I want to play. Like I just finished making like a chainmail plus 0E clone that I just released today. Like
Heck yes.
I'm like, you know, the return guy.
I love that.
Return with the V in it, you know. To play a kind of game that like hasn't been played in a long time, or if at all by a lot of people. You know, I'm a firm believer that a lot of people had the game explained to them, or they had an understanding of the game when they were 12, and they haven't changed it since then, unfortunately, for better or worse.
Yeah,
you know,
That's fair.
And I maybe I come from a different perspective because I didn't start playing when I was 12. I grew up in a very like evangelical, controlling home where, you know, satanic panic stuff was still a concern. Very charismatic type churches. And so like I'm not looking through it through these like rose-colored 12-year-old glasses. So I look at the gaming sphere and I'm sort of just like, you know, my opinions are formulated differently, and I think I hopefully like reflects in my games and the stuff that I make, and you know the opinions that I hold. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that thought, but that was my train of thought.
It was a good thought, though.
But I guess to you know your point, Ryan, I agree that like we are at a crossroads here. There's no real clear successor. The hobby's in a weird place, and where it could contract again, or it could blossom and grow again. And honestly, I'm honestly fine with either way, because I think like for a lot of indie creators, I think we'll mostly be okay, you know.
Yeah.
We've got our niches, and
yeah,
and that's very valuable in this hobby. I believe, in my opinion, having like your niche and your little fan base, and
and
totally.
the people that care about what you're doing. Because the one thing that like you guys, you Ryan and Wonkee and Viktor, and even hopefully myself, people see is like when we make something, like we do it because we really love what we're doing.
Yeah,
we really believe in what we're doing. Like would Wizards of the Coast, or would any big box publisher, big company publisher, would they do like my own game, like Makuhito, where it's like, okay, it's going to be ancient Aztecs, and we're just going to we're going to lean into the human sacrifice. We're going to lean into slavery, and we're going to lean into all of these historical aspects of their civilization. Like, no, they wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but like, I don't care.
You do it for the Obsidian Mirror. Heck yeah, my man.
Well, everyone knows that ancient Tenochtitlan was just like Seattle is now.
Yeah.
So
until those evil conquistadors, evil white Christian males showed up and just they ruined it.
Yeah,
they ruined paradise. But no, you know, like there's things that like we can do as creators that a lot of these bigger corporations can't do. Like Wizards of the Coast has to lean into a VTT, and they have to give this sanitized Tumblr art version of D&D now, because like they think that that's what's safe and that that's what's going to, you know, earn them money. And for the moment it sort of has, but you know that fountain's going to run dry at some point. Whereas like for you guys, you know, you write a grisly adventure that's like horror, and you know, but it's authentic, and people can read, they can feel that as they do the adventure or as they read your module. They're going to instantly be drawn to I think I guess what it comes down to is I think people are instantly drawn to authenticity. Yeah, and they can sense that in projects, I think.
Yeah, I mean, not to sound too cocky, but it's kind of people like us pushing the ball forward between the four of us and what we're each individually doing with our projects and things of that nature. We're really the ones making progress, advancing the industry. Because like you said, the WotC's in a well of just what works and regurgitating and recycling that same water over and over again. Well, I feel we're actually in the trenches, in the depths of experimenting what works, why, and kind of really venturing into new territories that they're afraid to. But well, it's kind of, I'm at a place of I have nowhere else to go. I don't want to be with their well, you know.
And on top of that, there's also the sense from a lot of the indie scene that they really have no interest in trying to find out what's kind of over the next hill. They're kind of constantly going back to the same well, the same source, and trying to basically reword it or impose their house rules that they've used for 40 years or whatever. There's a lot of sameness to even like the indie push, and I do think a lot of this is due to like not having kind of fresh blood out there as far as designers and fresh kind of mindsets to approach to the game. And so that's why I think, again, not to toot our own horns, not to sound too cocky, that's one of the advantages that I think Wonkee and I have and that you guys have is
there's other creators. There's other creators too, like Greg at Chronicles of Iris.
Yeah, Greg, absolutely.
There's lots of other creators out there that are I don't want to make it sound like we're over here like circle jerking or something like that.
But we aren't fuck. What's the name for that?
Vic, put your pants back on.
Oh.
Because like I think for me, like I still suffer from imposter syndrome repeatedly.
Yeah.
I just released White Boxes, my Chainmail 0E clone, and it's like, man, I'm releasing this clone, and this is a version of the game and history with the game that lots of people have very opinionated opinions about. So like they're going to either love this thing or they're going to hate it. And so did I do a good job? Are people going to like it? I want people to read it and like it, So it's not like I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to make it sound like we think we're so great. It's just, I think what separates us apart is we're not afraid to fail at something.
Well spoken.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about that too much though, because we've talked about this before. Like when you're discussing rules and you're like throwing them out on Twitter or like even on the Guilded server, people have like all these opinions and they'll correct you and all this shit. If you just write something and you don't say anything and you just publish it, people seem to accept it. They'll accept a finished product, but they won't accept just a random thought. I don't know. So there's this weird thing that happens.
Well, thank you, Rex Steele. He says, you guys are honestly just way better designers than WotC. WotC can't even be bothered having proper page layout or book binding.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I have my 5e books fell apart just from laying flat use at the table. It's like,
Dang.
And thank you, Likely Arrow. I've really tried to level up my layout game. I feel like that's been my big focus over the last year is like looking at the original Cowpunchers or Crypts and Serpents or some of the past stuff I've done, and I'm trying to make something that looks easy to read and presents information in a not a Morkborg way, but in a still stylized but easy to read way. So thank you. Sorry, my brain just like
Oh, no worries.
blanked out right now.
I like what you were just saying about how you were kind of experimenting and pushing your designs with layout, because I think right now we're at kind of a cultural verge where there seems to be this universal craving for novelty and innovation, and I think it's really cool that you're there providing it. You're getting instant feedback right here.
I don't even really feel like I'm innovating though. I'm just chasing my own interests. I love like D20 modern type stuff. I love Shadowrun stuff, and I kind of felt like that stuff kind of had like there was like a dip, like that popularity from the 90s and early 2000s had kind of ended, and I wasn't really seeing the kind of games that I personally want to play out there. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just write them myself. And
so it was a very conscious decision though to pursue that path then.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Heck yeah.
Yeah, there is this kind of weird fine line, and I'm noticing this as I'm teaching myself layout. There's this fine line between things being too sterile and things being too stylized that you really have to like strike a balance on, because if too far in one direction is Morkborg and then too far in the other direction is something like OSE, which a lot of people believe is too sterile, and honestly, I'm one of them. It is a little too sterile. So
a little bit,
it's efficient, but so's a hospital.
Yes. you want to present information in a fun way, and part of like when you do that, if it's clear and it's interesting the way that it was presented, it assists people with, you know, what I think all of us would say is an ultimate goal, having the information stick in people's brains so that you know you don't have to continuously RTFM. You can RTFM a few times, and then eventually you start to commit some of that stuff to memory.
What are you guys using for layout? Are you guys using the same program? Are you using Affinity, InDesign?
I'm using Ryan.
And I'm using Affinity.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Affinity. I've struggled with it a little bit in my Makuhito offset print issues, but some of it was just mostly due to me being an idiot than anything else. So the book is actually getting printed right now, like as we
Nice.
Congratulations.
As we talk, like all those issues are finally sorted out. But I don't know. Once I figured out Affinity, I felt like I had superpowers. So I would encourage. I've mentioned this before. This is my indie TTRPG designer advice: is art costs money, and AI art is a risk that you're going to have to take if you're going to want to you know, make it in this, because there's going to be people, if you use AI art, people are going to be like, I can't trust you, I don't want to buy your stuff ever again. Like you risk turning people off. So I'm kind of in the mindset of like, I don't really hate AI art, but like I'm going to do my own art, or I'm going to use public domain art.
Yeah, same.
Because art is expensive. But one area you can save money is if you learn how to do layout yourself. And Affinity is so cheap. The Affinity suite, you get like a Photoshop analog, you get designer, photo, and publisher, which are pretty much like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And you can get it for like a couple $100 at most, and oftentimes it's on sale.
Oh, awesome.
And so you have all this software, and like, man, you can be that guerrilla warfighter. You know, we kind of joked about that like last year, you know, guerrilla game design, you know, guerrilla warfare game design, where like you can do this thing where you're this one man, or as close to a one man show as you can be as an indie creator. And what that allows you to do is you can turn on a dime in a ways that WotC and a lot of these big publishers can't do. You can turn on a dime and you can adapt. And I think that like looking at like my layout, at Vic's layout, at your guys' layout, what I saw on your Kickstarter here, you know, with this page up here, you know, you can put stuff out there that is on par with like what a lot of these big, like there's no real big difference, you know, between.
I'll take a compliment.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
It's become so much easier to make this kind of stuff than it has ever been before. So you know, learn layout, because
truthfully,
I've gotten compliments on my layout. I've had people like making me offers to do layout for them like already, and it's like I'm just some Dutch weirdo that started doing this 2 years ago. But yeah, you know, I had to self-teach myself the layout, and it's paying dividends now. So.
Right. It's such a helpful thing to just acquire these useful skills that you can have to transfer, you know, with anyone else creating things like this in the industry. Everyone's always learning tips and tricks and, you know, teaching each other different little ways to do something or other. And I think it really not only just helps build community, but really helps propagate that growth amongst everyone involved in it. I think it's a really cool thing that indie design has become so accessible, and especially with the things like YouTube and the internet, you have almost no excuse to not be a useful human being at this point. You know what I mean? If you want to do something in this design space, you can learn something, you know? And I think that's just cool, because it's a foot in the door for anyone at any time.
Although you do have to be careful with YouTube tutorials. I hear that some people fly into violent rages when they see a YouTube URL. So
don't get me started on the.
But People like to talk about gatekeeping a lot, but I in my opinion, it's like companies like WotC and Paizo and like all that stuff. They're the gatekeepers because they would never hire somebody like me. They would never hire somebody like John, even if it's just because of our opinions or whatever. But because we buy Affinity for like $50. We have some ideas. We can bypass all that and just fucking release our own shit and be successful regardless of that. So.
I wish I could get that as a clip because that is like the most punk rock spirit I've ever heard in my life, Vic. Yes, I'm with you 100% though. That's the thing is like there's no excuses anymore. It's attainable to anyone.
And even to kind of reveal one of my dirty little secrets here about O Night Divine for people who don't know, it was laid out in Canva. So even if you don't have the money for something like Affinity, you can go on Canva and you can make something that looks competent. Mm-hmm. You might hate yourself afterwards, but it can be
sites
done.
Like GM Binder, like they'll let you make if you know kind of like that weird HTML type stuff. They can it lets you like make really cool looking books. Yeah, and that's just a free subscription. So yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it is very. So someone in the hobby has mentioned how the OSR is punk rock, but I don't think that. I don't think it's necessarily just the OSR. Like you don't have to be just making OSR stuff. You can be designing anything. You know.
Yeah.
Like you said, Vic, the gatekeeping is removed, and I think that's partly why like last year Wizards of the Coast really wanted to like hammer down on the OGL and get pieces of people's Kickstarters, and then did the whole like, oh no, just kidding, but not really. We know you weren't kidding, because I think they're scared of indie designers, like even small people like us. Like I have no doubt that they're like, somewhat aware that like people like even it's not us, that people like us exist and they got to watch out for them. So
they better. I'm at the back.
Well, even just like there was like this big YouTuber last year. He's like a 5th edition YouTuber, and he released his own 5th edition book. He kickstarted it, and he made like $3.3 million. So yeah, I could see why WotC would maybe want like a piece of that. So
especially as they're hurting for money right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't send a draft contract to your major third parties a week before it's supposed to kick in. Just kidding. We were just testing the waters. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another interesting thing we can talk about real quick with your book is that like because it's system agnostic, you guys don't have to use an OGL or any sort of license. Like, who cares?
Right.
It's true.
You don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be tied to the stagnant shackles of anyone's system or their legal policies. And with how much stuff is out in the open, free for grabs, like Skeleton and Goblin, I mean, no one can do anything with those. And then, with the copyright and how language works with game mechanics, there's so much opportunity to make off-brand serial just by filing serial numbers off. You really don't need an OGL at this point in time. There's so much you can do to work around and make it fit within the parameters of your needs. And one of the big things with Guts and Glory is we're going all balls out as a company, and with that we have some pretty bold statements we're making some really intense hardcore fantasy adventuring, and with that I don't want to have to be tied to anyone else's morality clause or other bullshit like that. There's now is the best time to be alive for indie creators. And kind of tying this back to our last conversation is like with how much stuff is out in the air and the tools that are available, and now even with the introduction of like AI tools and stuff of that nature, I think we're going to see a really big pulling of weeds in the dilettante selection. Whoever wants to go and do something is going to go do it. You literally can't say like, I don't have this or that or anything, nothing's in order properly. If you want to go make cool stuff, you can just go do that, and there is literally no bars, no gatekeepers, nothing.
Yeah.
We are in almost the Wild West, a weird frontier of creative design. I don't know. I think it's going to be like Mad Max of the Muses for the upcoming decade.
I'm gonna real quick because I haven't done it. Sorry, bad host. I'm gonna throw the link in chat. The chat to this is, or the link to their Kickstarter is in the video description, and Vic's Kickstarter is in there as well. So make sure you check out Vic's as well. But I'm gonna throw it in chat here.
Yes, come back our dojo of dungeon design.
Yeah. Speaking of all the OGL business and stuff and like licenses, I was actually really appreciative of Necrotic Gnome, the Old School Essentials people, because I emailed them and I straight up said like, hey, I don't want to use the OGL because of all the shit that happened. Can we like work up something out? And they were like, yeah, just show us like real quick what you're working on, and we'll give you like a custom little blurb you can put in the book. So I did, and and they were like, yeah, that looks fine. And all I had to put in the original version of Modern Necessities was like, oh yeah, some of this stuff was used with like the permission from Necrotic Gnome, and that was like literally the only like license that's in the book. And for this one, I'm probably gonna put in the Creative Commons, like the 5.1 SRD one, just to be sure. But yeah, originally, like just the fact that they were willing to work with me on that was like really cool, and that actually was what kind of like spurred me on to keep going with Old School Essentials. So
this is one of those weird industries that we're kind of playing around in here, where asking you might actually receive. There's actual people at the end of these lines that you're talking to and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, people are more than willing to help you out with the things you need, and just to talk and have good conversation. And who knows what else? Like the people in the RPG scene are people. It's weird.
Yeah. I think it helped that they themselves, essentially they're just indies themselves. They happen to like hit it big with Old School Essentials and stuff, but it was just some nerd who wanted to write a BX clone at the end of the day.
That's fair.
So
good life decision that was.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to be respectful of Ryan's time. Is there like what is So why back Guts and Glories? I guess we'll do like the final, we'll do a pitch here of like what is setting your adventures apart, and then future adventures apart, because this is volume 1. So like obviously there's going to be more. Hopefully, I hope there's more. What are you guys excited about? What do you what is the draw that you feel that people should be excited about?
You want me to lead, or you got this?
Go ahead. Go for it.
All right. So I have a sales pitch for you, my friends. Okay. We are 2 young dudes looking to see a better future for the fantasy genre. We're kicking ass. We're doing it right. We're well studied in the genre and the games that we want to be playing. We have a clear path at legacy here. We're in this for the long run. 2 young creators, 2 settings, 2 worlds of vision. None of this before has been dreamed of. We're doing some wild shit and want to take you along for the ride. Now, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where you can get in early on creators really doing something meaningful within the fantasy space that you care about. So back us, because we need you. We're poor young creators. I'm doing all this art on a penny's budget. So help me help you see a better world of fantasy.
Nice. Good spiel.
Ryan, do you have anything you want to add, or did he?
I mean, like he pretty much got it there, but I do again just want to remind people like what you are funding right here. And again, I've probably gassed myself up a little too much on this entire stream. You're backing the future of role-playing games. You are backing when you back Guts and Glory, like when I did the pre-launch page, the hook was get in on the ground floor of the revolution of the RPG industry, and that's ultimately what I hope we'll be able to do. That'll take some time. This is just step one, but I would like to do this for a living. I want to design RPGs for a living, and I want to be the guy who makes people think differently about urban RPG settings. And I want Wonkee to be the guy who completely revolutionizes the way that like dark fantasy and horror are perceived in role-playing games. And so this is how you help us do this, by backing us on this project and helping us kind of even gain momentum headed into the next project with this project success.
Right. This is the Unashamed RPG Fight Club. You'll know if you want to be here.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, cool.
Oh, we killed it with that. I want to fight someone now. Hell yeah.
Fighting WotC. There you go.
Yeah, honestly, though.
There we go.
All these big publishers that want to, turn the hobby into like this EA DLC download pack nonsense.
Honestly, though.
So
yeah,
not really offering anything of value.
But just saying, if they want to offer us Bella Follow and Night Haven deals, we're open to talk. I'm just kidding. I will sell us out real quick, preemptively.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I hope people support. I'm glad that like I'm talking to you guys and it's already funded. I think that's awesome that you guys funded so quickly.
Thank you.
I hope this project does well and you maybe have some left over you can put towards volume 2 or some marketing for volume 2. That's always helpful when you're doing a Kickstarter, like the Facebook ads, the different ads you can do and whatnot. So
definitely.
I hope you guys, you guys got, you got a lot of time left. You got 23 days to go. So
we do indeed. I have high hopes.
You're going to get a little bit of lull in the middle, but at the end, it's going to close out. You're going to get a surge of people, I'm sure too. That's how mine works. It seems like how everyone's works too.
Generally how it happens.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for having us on, by the way. It's always a pleasure talking with you gentlemen. You guys rock.
Oh, no problem. I think Ryan has to go, but we don't have to end it here. And if Vic, if you guys don't mind, if Vic, if you want to, I want to give you a chance maybe to talk about your Kickstarter too as well. If you guys are cool with that too.
Yep.
I'm happy.
Absolutely.
So I'm doing the updated version of Modern Necessities Professional Edition. So I wrote Modern Necessities last year, right after the OGL business, kind of as like a test almost to see if people would be interested in like OSR modern stuff. It quickly became a silver seller, but at the end of the day, I wrote it in like 3 weeks. I could barely even remember those 3 weeks. It's a little bit rough around the edges. There's some stuff I messed up, and there's some stuff that I probably should have put in that I accidentally or just didn't even think about, just left out. I wanted to do this updated version, and I decided to kickstart it, and it funded in 24 hours. Earlier today, I hit the first stretch goal, which is like Weird West and Old West and like steampunky rules. And we're on the way to the second stretch goal for like cyberpunk stuff. So yeah, basically you can just take my rules and run like your own like urban fantasy settings, just pure modern settings if you want. Like I said, you could do steampunk or Old West or Weird West. You can do cyberpunk. I'm doing Bunker in the Badlands as the third stretch goal, which is going to be kind of my take on Keep on the Borderlands, but in a magical apocalypse setting. Kind of like, the Stalker games, if anyone's familiar, but with magic. Like Rifts meet Stalker, basically.
Okay.
And then, so like I said, just take my rules and do whatever the hell you want with them. You wanna do like a Kong Skull Island type thing. Take Isle of Dread. Give everyone AK-47s from my book. And there you go. Hunt some dinosaurs with an elephant gun. Like, I don't know.
Oh, this sounds...
Do whatever. That's basically it. modern rules for old school essentials for BX. So that means you can use it with pretty much almost any OSR system that's at least BX compatible. So you could use this with Lamentations of the Flame Princess, with Basic Fantasy, just with original BX, whatever really. A Shadow Dog probably.
I think you could use it for most any TSR edition. It's not going to be hard to make it work. So
yeah, could use it
the
with
ultimate
Marco
genre toolbox you got going on here.
Yeah, that was kind of my goal. So it's a toolkit. I am adding my own ideas for like settings and stuff, but at the end of the day, the core is just a toolkit, and you can use it to do whatever you want. If you want to do like Shadowrun, you can. If you want to do like that movie Bright, you can. If you want to do a knockoff Deadlands, you can. So yeah.
So this is useful for pretty much every dungeon master then. This sounds awesome.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh heck yeah. I'm so getting in on this. I'm glad you detailed it here. Heck yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I gotta jump out for the evening. It is late here in Nashville.
Yeah.
Coward. You're quitting on us.
He's probably got to go to work, and his child's probably going to get up early too. So
yeah,
both are accurate.
See, I know. So,
all right, you guys have a good night, and thank you for having us on here. This was awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome,
man. Good to see you, man.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
And make sure everyone check out the Guts and Glory Kickstarter and Vix here.
Yeah.
I think again, I think it's really cool that all of you guys funded so quickly. Especially you, Vic, because I know, like you said, your last Kickstarter was down to the wire. And, I think you had the unfortunate problem of that stupid Everyday Heroes thing came out.
Yeah, that really stole my thunder.
Yeah, and they kind of, I don't think they did it purposefully. But
No.
Unintentionally, kind of took you out at the knees.
Yeah, basically,
which made it harder for you because it was sort of, even though I think, because I have Modern Necessities on my Modern Adventurer's Guide to Guns and Gears. I think your book is bigger and better and more useful than what they made.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm not saying that just because I'm your friend.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, and I'm actually slowly working on the second edition of that, which is probably going to be its own standalone game. So I'm going to take the 5e rules and make my own tweaks and do whatever I feel is needed to put it, let you do modern stuff, and that's going to be like a whole. Like I said, standalone game. Should be fun.
Heck yeah. It must be a whirlwind or a roller coaster of emotions that you've been on with your last Kickstarter. What I've been hearing is it didn't kind of live up to the peak you were hoping, and then this one's kind of blowing out of the water. You must just feel, bombastic about this. This must
definitely.
Heck yeah, dude.
It was just a huge weight off my shoulders just to be funded in like one day instead of like sitting here for like 30 days worrying that it's going to fail.
I imagine kind of a blister popping. This is it kind of explosion of emotion. I love that. Heck yeah. Well earned, my dude. This looks killer.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I heard that about Evil Genius. I don't want to gloat about other creators like failing and stuff, but and like John said, it's not like they did it on purpose. It just happened to be unfortunate that they released something that was very similar at the same time, and they had like a way bigger budget and
had licensing too.
They had all the licensing, so yeah, they just completely blew me out of the water. And then everyone was like, "Well, why do I need Vic shit then? Like we've got Everyday Heroes." I literally had people like tell me like, "Oh, so like Everyday Heroes?" When I like announced my stuff, I was like, "Well, I've been working on it for like 2 years now, but thanks." But yeah, but whatever.
I think OSC, it has a very strong community of people around it, of gamers and people that love that game.
Yeah,
and so. I think that it's a good system to work for. We had Rob from Pulpamic Press with last week, talking about Gods of the Forbidden North Volume 2, which I find
so good.
I finally got my physical copy in, so I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Of Volume 1.
So OSZ already kind of does have a modern game, but it's very different at the same time. It's Dark Places and Demogorgons, and that's like all the classes is like you're like the teenage like skateboarder and like the punk or whatever. So it's not really like what I'm doing. It's not like, special forces soldiers with AK-47s and shit. But I've already had like a lot of yeah, but I've already had a lot of people like tell me like, yeah, I'm getting this because I love Dark Places and Demogorgons, and I'm gonna like combine the two. And I'm like, yeah, you definitely can. They at the end of the day, they both just use OSE rules. So
I would say you can.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Question here.
Oh, fun. That'd be a great adventure.
Yeah, you could do a Predator. You can pretty much probably do like just about any action movie if you really put your mind to it.
Right, I've been sitting here thinking of all the different ways I could implement these rules. Like, oh, there's so much. Like, this is a massive toolbox when you really think about the potentials that it opens up for you and your game table,
Yeah.
Like, what can't you do once you have all these rules here,
Well, the playtest I ran, sadly, it kind of petered out because real life and one of my players got really sick and stuff like that. But the playtest I was running last year was these rules, but with Keep on the Borderlands, which kind of gave me the idea to do Bunker in the Badlands. So yeah,
Awesome.
it was really fun.
Heck
So,
yeah.
just grab any old module, put my rules on top of it, and you can have all sorts of crazy fun adventures.
That's honestly, I think, what most game tables need to spice them up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a little bit of stagnation that kind of has gone on within the classic D&D thing. This could really spice up a table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so, and hopefully others,
so, for sure.
Hopefully others agree. So
at least 210 from what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, and it's still early days. 26 days to go. So
congratulations, my man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll show everyone your tiers here. So you got just the basic backing it up, Enforcer deal.
Yeah.
About $10 for PDF. Hitman deal, soft cover print on demand, and digital PDF. Killer deal, so hardcover plus digital. Operator deal, soft cover plus hardcover plus digital. And squad deal. I think this is the one this is like the best deal here. I think
it's 4 times soft cover plus 4 times PDF.
Yeah. So like you can outfit all your players with the rules you need to do that. I think that's a good way of doing it. I kind of thought about
gears up the whole table.
I thought about offer, and maybe I should have. I should have offered something like that when I did Makwahizel, but whatever. Live and learn. And then special forces deal. So you get 4 hardcovers for your friends, and you can be the hero of all of your friends for $97 US, 89 euros.
It's a really good deal. I love all the art that you have going on with each pledge tier as well.
Yeah,
that's a really nice feature. I like that.
And then the Juggernaut deal is you get 4 hardcovers, 4 soft covers, and 40 PDFs. The only caveat is that the word? Is that it's at cost print on demand, so you do have to pay for the printing yourself eventually, but that's why I also like the base version of the book is like just black and white instead of the original one where I had like the red highlights, which I really love, but that increases the price for like printing like twicefold. Is that the word? Twofold.
Oh wow.
And so I made the base version just black and white because that really cuts down on the print costs. And then the colored version is like a stretch goal.
I didn't know printing in colored was such a substantial price difference.
Yeah, it's like,
that's crazy to me. Wow.
Well, I calculated like I figured about 150 pages, black and white, standard quality. It was like $5 for like a soft cover, and then the colored one was like $10. So it's like literally twice.
Wow, that is substantial. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I can see why everyone was warning me away from colored. Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, and like for Makwahizel, I had to for offset. I had to make the K only and Pantone. It was essentially 2 color only because that made it so much cheaper than doing full color or 4 color process CMYK.
Oh, interesting.
Because Makwahizel, I stole Vic's color scheme of red and black for that.
Yeah.
So
it looks really good, but like I said, it's like
it ups the costs.
Yeah. So because all my art was still black and white, And I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh yeah, this red looks cool. And then I went to printing, and I'm like, fuck, I'm actually paying for color, but kind of for no reason.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting. It's a good
And
tip
yeah.
to think of in the future, though.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, Malachi was the #1 backer, which one might have to like figure out some special thing for that, just to celebrate that. I don't know. Because I know Crafty Matt was the #1 backer for X2, and he got like a special title on like the Discord or something. So
Oh, that's fun. Acknowledged for it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I could give him a special role on the guild.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I could do that for him.
Then yeah, how and when do I claim my popular Kalashnikov? Yeah, I don't know.
You did promise that on Twitter.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
You're gonna have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
ATF
maybe maybe next Kickstarter I'll have like some limited edition where you get like something fancy. I don't know.
Right. Fold out image of one.
Yeah. It's just like a small like wooden AK, just like a keychain.
Yeah, there we go. A little keychain. I like that.
I'm just glad Makuhito's going through Pint, and I have that headache out of my head right now.
I'm sure that must be such a feeling when it's finally out of your hands. All that you could have done to it has been done. You finally hit the last enter. It's finished. It's gone. Like, can you explain that feeling to me? What is it like actually having finished a project?
I don't know, because I went from Makuhito and I went back immediately to trying to work on Atomic Punk 2240 and White Box. So like,
gotcha, just keep the ball rolling.
I never really gave myself a chance to rest there.
Yeah, I like that though. that speaks to me in the heart. It's like, okay, one's over, next one's up, That's the grind.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm usually running like 5 projects at once. And then I'll finish something, and like instead of like being happy about it and being like, oh well, now I can rest, I'm like, well, time for the next one.
Right. Give yourself like an hour between.
Yeah.
Like I said before the stream, I may take this week or 2 off to just sort of decompress a little bit, especially after releasing White Box. So
that's fair. Yeah, very, very prolific.
Yeah, you need your energy for when my Kickstarter finishes and I pay you thousands of euros to do art for me.
Hey, I'll take.
It's true.
Yeah.
I guess real quick, if you're cool with it, Vic, I want to talk about White Box a little.
Oh yeah,
bit.
go ahead, man.
So White Box is out. It is pay what you want. So this is I got 153 pages here. This is a chainmail original Dungeons and Dragons kind of combined together into a single rule set. Like, my mindset was, and I've talked about this before, was like, pretend it's 1974 and all you have are the 3 little brown books. All you have are the White Box and chainmail. How would you run Dungeons and Dragons? And so this is kind of like how I would do that. So implementing aspects of chainmail. And you can kind of see the table of contents here.
Yeah.
Covers a lot of stuff. It is a complete game.
Wow.
100% totally complete game. And I tried to kind of take sort of like the OSC route of, it's a bit dry, but hopefully understandable, because 0E is one of those editions that a lot of people look at like mysteriously. I know I did. So
I've been trying to read it, and I'm like, what are you talking about, Gary?
Well, now you can read this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've been waiting because I'm working on my own 0E sort of project, so I've been waiting on this to finish.
I translated everything for the layman who doesn't understand.
For the Dutch dummies.
Doesn't have a high Gagaxian. So we got a lot of stuff. I'll go to the stuff that like is the big deal here. So you got all the classic spells, all of them extremely vague in the 0E style. And
I like that though.
Yeah, they're super vague. Like the spells can be easily abused or hemmed in by a referee. Depends on how you want to go with it. I tried to keep that flavor of Zero E here.
This looks spectacular, and everything reads so cleanly. Like, just the page flow is super nice, and I adore that font that you use for each header. That's beautiful.
It was called like Primitive. It was like a free public domain font. I'm the king of trying to find stuff I don't have to pay a license for.
Fair, very fair.
I appreciate any creator that will actually put spacing in the book.
Right. Like, everything's just comfortable on my eyes. This is a very nicely laid out rule book. You should be proud of that.
Well, until you maybe get to these tables here, but
but
this isn't
bad.
This is the first point. Well, it gets sideways stuff here.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
You'll have to rotate, but yeah.
I never think of doing that though, because I run out of space with tables all the time, and like with like the little like descriptions for the different whatever they're called, whatever the fucking word is, and like I never really thought of just putting them sideways.
Yeah, and Likely Arrow has a thing here. Zero E requires chainmail to really understand, and chainmail requires multiple readings. And honestly, like I feel like I still need to reread chainmail. I only reread chainmail enough to like play Zero E, but I feel like if I were to try and run chainmail as a war game, I'd still run into problems that I'd have to like reference. Things like cannons and all that kind of stuff. They're not as relevant in Zero E, so I'm not as familiar with them. But the pod will be digest size, so roughly the same size as like if you have Atomic Punk or Cowpunchers, it'll be the same size as those books. But this page here is where it gets like some of the chainmailism. So what I did is chainmail is usually like 2d6 rolls on the man-to-man tables. So what I did is I took the distance that the target number was from 7, because the peak of the pyramid on 2d6 is 7. And so like for dagger against no armor or AC 9, it was target number 8 on 2d6. So I just changed it to a modifier on the d20 roll to be a +1. And so I just went through with all the math like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you just simplified everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that you could keep the d20 roll, the alternative combat system, as Gary calls it in Zero E, because you could either use the 2d6 system in chainmail or the d20 system in Zero E. He gives you that option. I like the d20 attack roll. It's ubiquitous with D&D, so I kept that. And then weapon class. So this is like the proto AD&D 1E like weapon speed thing, which allows you to do lots of crazy crunchy things like parry weapons. If you try and parry, but your weapon is a certain amount of classes lower than the attacking weapon, then you might be disarmed or your weapon might break. So there's lots of stuff, lots of crunchy stuff that can happen here with weapon class that is taken from chainmail. And then fighting capability, which is taken from chainmail, which I think a lot of Zero E clones sort of just ignore, and they don't they never bother with because no one used chainmail, it seemed. So chainmail allows you to attack as a level 1 man. So like if you're a level 4 fighting man, you have a hero fighting capability, which means you fight as 4 men, and that you can attack as 4 level 1 men in non-fantastical combat, which gives you at level 4 attacks against creatures of less than 4 hit die, which is what I count as non-heroic monsters. Yeah. So these multiple attacks compared with weapon class, you can, and with these attack matrices, like you get this what first appears as like this very, what many people like to call a rules-like game. You get a very crunchy AD&D-ish, like before AD&D was a thing, style game, just from using chainmail, which was the goal. So that was some of the big stuff. And then at the end, I also have some appendices here. I have my own Appendix A, which is like a dungeon generator.
Fun.
So you can generate dungeons on the fly, and caves and hex generation as well.
Oh, cool.
So if you're doing hex crawls, and I'm an advocate, everyone knows this, of low to low to zero prep gaming, I like to show up with nothing but my rule book and my imagination and dice and pencils.
Fun.
So having the tools to do that has been important for me. I give you some oracles so you can ask yes or no questions of a dice roll. If you don't know the answer to something, you can use it for solo gaming, as well as patron NPC generation. And I give you adjectives and descriptive words that you can roll on if you're not sure. Again, a bunch of low to zero prep stuff that I feel is important and useful. And then like room content, like what's in a room. You can choose, like in a torture dungeon, roll a D100 and
fun.
and fill a room with random stuff. So and you get a thief class at the end. 0E didn't have a thief, but I wanted to add, I know people like their thieves, but 0E didn't have a thief. That wasn't added until supplement 1 Greyhawk. So I tried to use this playtest version of the thief that I found that was very poorly scanned, and I did my best to try and make that class work. So yeah, and then extra pole arms. I went to strategic review, I think it was issue number 2, which has the pole arm autism from Gary Gygax. And I did the same thing, target number 7, and I extrapolated to hit modifiers for your D20 roll with pole arms from strategic review issue 2. So, and you can get this all for the low price of pay what you want. So it's
Wow.
the whole PDF is pay what you want. The print on demand version will mark up a little bit. And yeah, I tried writing something about religion, and I just couldn't get my head around what I wanted to say properly. So I ended up omitting it because I just felt like I couldn't say what I was trying to say. So yeah.
Fair enough. That is quite the project, good sir. The fact that like anyone could pick this up and start gaming with it. Now it might not be the most like what I might call a new player friendly game. In the sense that there is a lot of intense knowledge that goes into this, but like the fact that you've made it accessible and digestible being the big thing, like this is beautiful.
Thank you.
Heck yeah, congratulations on the job well done, first off, because like this is accessible. I could get other people to play this. If I tried to get anyone else to play White Box, do you know what that would mean? Or I mean not White Box, but like chainmail. Do you know how hard that would be to get a group of like true authentic old school gameplay going on a day-to-day level? It's so inaccessible as a game.
Well, that's what I feel like. I feel like this is a style of game that no one really plays anymore. You know, we talked about that earlier in the stream, you know, be the change you kind of want to see.
Yes, very much. And it feels authentic.
Yeah, so I wanted to present like I'm sitting here telling you like how I would play 0E with chainmail and explaining it to you in words that you understand and in organized in a way that would help you understand, hopefully better than. And it's no offense to Gary, like Gary and Dave Arneson and the whole TSR crew, like no one had ever made a game like this before, so they didn't know how to lay out books.
Yeah,
you know, like they were the first. They didn't have the luxury of, for me, like 50 plus years of rule books that I can look at and be like, oh, that's a great way to lay out something.
Absolutely.
Like, they didn't have that when they were the first. So the goal is to kind of, what I kind of viewed myself as is I couldn't take Gary word for word. So I rewrote what Gary wrote in my own words, explaining how I understand it, and kind of acted as his editor and organizer.
Can you go to Cleric real quick?
Yeah.
No, if go down maybe or up. Honestly, I want to go with what that crucifix is.
Oh, that was in that's in the magic section.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I provided that image for the crucifix. So basically, I made the whole game. So that's all I wanted to say.
It's basically like you wrote it.
Yeah,
that's the joke. Yeah.
I love it. Another thing you really achieved with this, it's something you mentioned briefly when you first started talking about it, is it looks and it feels like a product of a different era. You were able to like tap into that vintage aesthetic, but modernize the way that information can be, intake. That's amazing. You've really achieved
thank
something
you.
with that, because it doesn't look like a modern book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the goal. I wanted to still feel like this is like an idealized version of it from the 70s,
I think you nailed that exact thing right there. Yeah.
Yeah, Vic wrote the whole thing. I'm sitting here talking about it, but it's really
of course. I wrote Gods of Forbidden North. I wrote this. I wrote Ryan Howard's City Adventure.
Yeah, you did.
I'm the ghostwriter behind everything.
Right, behind the entire industry. It is all you.
Yep.
But I think what really I tried to set apart, is that like it's not like and it's no offense to something like White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game or Swords and Wizardry or Iron Falcon or any of these other kind of games that kind of look at 0E and the 3 LBBs. It's that I tried to put as little of myself and what I think the rules should be into it. This is kind of, for me, like a historical endeavor as well, where it was sort of like, I'm reading Chainmail and I'm reading 0E Dungeons and Dragons. I'm reading OD&D. What are the rules trying to tell me? What game is this trying to make? And how can I rewrite it and replicate it and explain it to people so that they can more easily pick it up and play a kind of game that they've never really played before? So it's not just like, well, I think that this rule should be this. Like, I didn't do that at all in this. Like, even if there was something I didn't like in this, I put it in there anyways because it's what the rules in those original editions indicated. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to dig through it because, like I said, I've been trying to dig through Chainmail and 0E, but a lot of stuff is just, I don't know, I'm dumb. And so, you having done all the work to explain it properly will probably help me with my own kind of 0E inspired project I'm working on. So, yeah.
And thank you, Rex Teal. That means a lot to hear that because that was the goal, like to revive a style of game that like no one has really done in a long time.
Simple words, very well spoken, though. I think that's exactly what I was trying to nail with my giant word jumble there. Is like, this actually, I think you did it.
Hope so. I mean, I hope that my clone of 0E stands up there with like Delving Deeper and a lot of the other, well respected and faithful adaptations of the game. I hope that people look at this with as much respect someday as those games. So, with what I was trying to do.
Do you have like a page where it has like vague, only barely showing text, like berating Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson? Or
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't do that. In fact, I did the opposite because that made me very upset. Actually, when
well, that was kind of one of the reasons why you wrote this, if I remember right.
Yeah, I wasn't really gonna do it, but like, I said here, like, it was for my wife and my child, and for Gary and Dave, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, that person that wrote that clone of 0E, that person, like, it made me mad when they were besmirching the dead who can't defend themselves. So that was part of an inspiration for this. I've had these notes for this in my head because I want to run 0E. I run 0E as well. This is an addition. This is really an addition that I run. 0E plus Chainmail is a version of the game I tried to run. And so I was like, well, I have these notes and this person sucks. So like I could do a better job than they can.
Yeah, exactly. That you're actually trying you're trying to do like gaming archaeology almost, and you're like, and they were just very cynical, like I'm only doing this so I can shit on what came before.
Yeah,
I like the term gaming archaeology you just used because that rings true to what I'm looking at right now. Is that it is?
So yeah, check it out. I'll throw the link in the chat here. Check it out if they haven't already.
What would you say is? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'll say it's you could give me nothing for it. You could pay $0 for this if you want, and that's fine. So Or you can pay whatever you feel it's worth.
What is something that a really modern gamer, like they've only ever played 5th edition, would sit down to play this game right here and kind of come away saying? Like, what is the biggest, if you could summarize how this game is going to play differently? Now, I know this could easily be interpreted as a big OSR question, but what is the real feel that you want people to come back with from playing your game, opposed to any other kind of white box, or not white box, OD&D experience?
I think that if you're using Chainmail and you're using 0E, you will play this game. So you'll play white box here. And I think you'll realize that it is actually very much more heroic with fighting capability and the way spells work. Some of these spells they're so vague, but some of the way they describe things too is like very powerful. That, for instance, in this, pretty much there's a chance that almost every magic sword you find has an ego and intelligence and has a purpose and a will. Like, that's very 0E. 0E was like every sword is almost Stormbringer from the Elric saga, so every sword is super special. And if you're only using the 3 classes that were available in the 3 little brown books, only fighters can use these magic swords. So people always talk about like fighters are these like weak, pathetic people, but like, or they're annoying, they just hit things harder. But like, no, fighters are the only ones that can wield these magical swords that some of them can cast spells. Some of them can do like really amazing things.
Yeah.
You melted my heart with that. I love that.
Yeah. So I think they'll see that like 0E, this wargaming is the root of the hobby, and it's reflected in these rules. Not just in a number of appearing, but in the multiple attacks that player characters, hero characters get. Likely Arrow was talking about weapon classes and parry rules make combat more tactical. Like, it can be a crunchy game. It's going to be, if you can survive level 2 though, it's going to be very heroic. It's going to be very high risk, high reward game for your character. So
yeah.
Like, for instance, one thing I was talking about on Twitter was dragons. Dragons deal like however many starting hit points a dragon has. That's how much damage it does in a breath weapon. So like, if a dragon has 44 hit points, that dragon is going to use its fire breath weapon and deal 44 points of damage every single time it breathes fire. So you're pretty much toast. Like, you got to make sure you deal. Dragons are scary in 0E. So stuff like this, high risk, high reward, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, would you also say, using my example of that the 5th edition gamer that doesn't really know much about this stuff, if they were to download this book here and like really give it a good read through, do you think it would elevate their DM skills? Like, do you think this is something, since you did make the info more digestible, you could almost use it a little bit like a training manual for how to be a better dungeon designer and that kind of thing, and game master and all that?
The rules and everything are focused towards 0 to low prep. So again, that's the way I game. I show up and I'm like, I don't know what's going on tonight, but I got my random tables and I got my rule book and my paper and dice and pencils. It's gonna work.
On-hand usefulness.
So like, very much how to run it. These are the tools for running like a sandbox, low prep, 0 prep game.
That's awesome. Heck yeah.
The rules pretty much just kind of say that only it doesn't give you any flavor text in 0E. It's just like only fighters can use swords. But you could rule that like swords seek glory, and so they want the most martial character to wield them.
I was literally thinking that like they want to be wielded by somebody who can actually use them.
Right. I don't want some Melvin with me. Yeah.
They want a fighter who can fight. Who can find the sword G-spot or whatever.
Well, like a lot of swords have like goals. Like, so some of these magic swords, so like they're designed to kill magic users. So it's like, they want. There you go. Yeah. So that are designed to kill clerics, like lawful clerics or chaotic clerics. And that's another thing. All swords have alignment. So if you are of a lawful alignment and you try and pick up a magic sword and the sword is chaotic alignment, you're going to take 2d6 worth of damage from just trying to pick up the sword because of your opposite alignments. And because most of these swords have intelligence and ego, they're going to try and take over your character and control your character and make your character do things that your character otherwise wouldn't want to do. Like, I really want to kill magic users, and I know that this wizard is your patron, but you should stab him. Stab him, just stab him. And then the referee will do like a check to see if the ego is stronger than the character's will. And if it is,
that's a lesson learned quick.
Yeah, it also gives stronger game reasons for clerics' restrictions to blunt weapons, stops them from using magic swords and thus being possessed by these egotistical weapons that might make them do things against their clerical order. So yeah, because swords are the only things that have the ability to be sentient and intelligent in 0e.
Yeah,
true.
But yeah, I thought I don't need to talk about me anymore. It's getting late for me here too.
That is fair.
And my child is going to be up early for school tomorrow, so I have to make sure she's ready to go. But any final words from you, gentlemen? Anything?
No, just thank you for having me on. Thank you for helping glow up the Kickstarter and the support you've been given. Like, seriously, it means the world to me. And thank you. And keep kicking ass with your own endeavors. You guys are a huge inspiration as an aspiring indie creator, Hopefully I'll get the chance to work with y'all one day.
Oh yeah, no, I would love to hire you to do some art. Like, I saw the maps you did. Maybe we can work something out for Bunker in the Badlands or something. If I hit that stretch goal, and
heck yeah, so, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Rock on.
So yeah, I want to tell everyone, check out if you haven't. Some of you might have already backed both of their Kickstarters, but if you haven't already, check them out. Give them a look, peruse them, give them a look, see if you want to back them. I highly suggest you do. You're supporting
a gander, perhaps.
Yeah. you're supporting good people when you back, and good people in the hobby when you back these projects. So, and I think that's important. Yep. But I think we'll end it here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for super chat, and we'll catch you guys next time. I don't know who we're gonna have next week, but it'll be someone.
Yep, wonderful. Thank you once again. Y'all rock.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.